live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
International investigators believe last month's attacks on oil tankers in a United Arab Emirates port were led by a foreign state using divers on speedboats who planted mines on the vessels.
Today was a tragic day.
One West Point cadet was killed on Thursday when a military training vehicle driven by a soldier on rough terrain overturned.
Mexico scrambles to slow the flow of Central American migrants to the United States as talks continue in Washington to head off President Donald Trump's threat of potentially catastrophic tariffs on Mexican goods.
And British Prime Minister Theresa May steps down as leader of her Conservative Party on Friday, formally triggering the race for a successor who will try where she failed to deliver Brexit.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. International investigators believe last month's attacks on oil tankers in a United Arab Emirates port were led by a foreign state using divers on speedboats who planted mines on the vessels. Now, they didn't name Iran, which the U.S. has blamed for the attacks. That's what United Nations ambassadors from the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Norway told a closed meeting with UN Security Council members on Thursday. 4 tankers from those countries were hit on May 12 off the Emirati coast. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton has said Iran is responsible for the attacks. On Thursday, the Saudi ambassador to the UN, Abdallah al-Molalimi, speaking only for his country, said Saudi Arabia also blames Iran for the sabotage. Scientific and naval experts conducted a probe analyzing tanker debris, radar data, and the precisely placed explosive charges.
One West Point cadet was killed on Thursday when a military training vehicle driven by a soldier on rough terrain overturned. Lieutenant General Darrell A. Williams told reporters 19 other cadets and 2 soldiers were injured when the vehicle flipped over, but said their injuries were not considered life-threatening.
Today was a tragic day for the West Point community in our United States Army. Early this morning, a troop vehicle carrying 20 cadets, operated by 2 soldiers, was traveling to a land navigation training site when it was involved in a rollover accident. The cadets were involved in a standard training exercise that occurs as a part of their military training program here at West Point. One cadet is confirmed deceased as of 10:58 a.m. The other injured personnel received care at Keller Army Community Hospital and various other regional medical facilities. Their injuries are not life-threatening.
Academy officials said the cadets and soldiers were en route to the Camp National Bridge field training site when the 5-ton military cargo truck, known as a light medium tactical vehicle, overturned.
So the injuries range from facial abrasion to a broken arm, but as the general mentioned, they were all non-life-threatening injuries.
Academy officials declined to identify the cadet who died in the accident. The death is the second fatality of an Academy cadet this year. Cadet Peter Zhu died in February after injuries suffered during a skiing accident.
I would like to commend the exceptional efforts and professionalism of the first responders and medical personnel, and thank our great New York State Police and our mutual aid partners. We are working actively to notify next of kin, and will provide more information when the notification is complete. Very strong. I mean, this is the United States Army. We're strong. We're strong here at West Point. The community has come together very nicely, as I talked about the medical support and all the great professionals we have here, along with our partners, as I mentioned. So we responded extremely quickly. I came out early this morning when I found out, and our great partners in New York were here already attending to our wedding. Thank you very much.
In other news, the man accused of the Northern Territory's worst mass shooting has told a Darwin Court he is very sorry about what happened. Take a look. Benjamin Glenn Hoffman, 45, faced Darwin local court on Friday for the first time since being charged with murder over Tuesday night's rampage that killed 4 men. Hoffman appeared via video link from Darwin prison. He said, "I do need help. I asked for help." Hoffman was remanded in custody to appear in court again for a preliminary examination mentioned in September. Anti-police charged Hoffman with 4 counts of murder, 2 of recklessly endangering serious harm, and 1 of criminal damage. The 4 killings Hoffman is accused of occurred in about 30 minutes, with a gunman appearing to target specific locations. The violence started at 5:39 p.m. local time Tuesday at the Palms Motel, where Hoffman allegedly shot and killed taxi driver Hassan Baidoun, 33, who was on a meal break. A 23-year-old woman at the Palms, who police do not believe knew Hoffman, was shot in the legs and remains in hospital. Police allege the shooter went on to kill Nigel Helling, 75, in Gardens Hill Crescent, less than a kilometer away, at what might have been the former home of an associate. He then allegedly killed Michael C. Sois, 57, who knew Hoffman after previously working together a few hundred meters away in the car park of the Buff Club. More charges are expected to be laid. Mass shootings are rare in Australia, say experts, because it has some of the toughest gun laws in the world.
President Donald Trump has commemorated the 75th anniversary of D-Day by paying tribute to the cherished alliance forged in battle by the U.S. and partner nations. Trump told aging warriors gathered on a bluff overlooking Omaha Beach, "Our debt to you is everlasting."
The blood that they spilled, the tears that they shed, the lives that they gave, the sacrifice that they made, did not just win a battle. It did not just win a war. Those who fought here won a future for our nation. They won the survival of our civilization. And they showed us the way to love, cherish, and defend our way of life for many centuries to come. On these shores, on these bluffs.
Trump has at times questioned the value of NATO and other institutions that emerged from World War II.
Meanwhile, a top American lawmaker is declining to criticize President Trump while she leads a group of members of Congress at the 75th anniversary of D-Day in France. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she's not in Europe to talk about impeachment, and her focus during an interview on MSNBC was honoring veterans and expressing hopes for a message of unity.
We are so divided as a country right now. Do you worry about the politics right now, impeachment and everything else that's on the table, and how that can further divide us?
Well, again, with all due respect to your question, I'm not here to talk about impeachment, but I do say that on the subject of our veterans, we always strive to work in a bipartisan way. So this is not a departure from what we set as a standard. Wherever we can, we try to be as bipartisan, nonpartisan as possible. That's a comfort to the veterans.
What do you hope the President's message will be here today? What do you want to hear from him?
Well, I hope that it would be a message of unity, a message about how the unity that we had at that time to defend civilization. There was a lot at stake in that war, and people came together, all different kinds of, from different countries in Europe, and they were very different from each other at the time. There was no European Union. So hopefully a renewed spirit of collaboration and recognition of our dependence on each other. My favorite quote, we always talk about John F. Kennedy in his speech to citizens of America, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. The very next line in that speech, which I saw in person as a student, the very next line in this says, to the citizens of the world, ask not what America can do for you, but what we can do working together for the freedom of mankind.
America is less respected in
Pelosi is leading.
than at any time in post-war.
Pelosi is leading a delegation of some 80 members of Congress, many of them veterans. Trump, in a Fox News interview, has called Pelosi a disaster, and he's tried out a new nickname for her, Nervous Nancy.
Importance of alliances.
She's a disaster, and she made a statement. It was a horrible,
When you were
nasty,
overseas.
vicious statement while I'm overseas. Now, if I made any statement about anybody, it would be like a big head. Why would he do that when he's overseas? She didn't want to. She is a terrible person, and I'll tell you, her name, it's Nervous Nancy, because she's a nervous wreck.
British Prime Minister Theresa May steps down as leader of her Conservative Party on Friday, formally triggering the race for a successor who will try where she failed to deliver Brexit. May will remain Prime Minister until a new leader is chosen, likely in late July, but has relinquished control over the direction of Britain's tortuous departure from the European Union. Brexit is still scheduled for October 31, but while her rivals thrash it out over the leadership, the project remains stalled, with the only divorce plan agreed with Brussels stuck in Parliament. May took office after the shock 2016 referendum vote to leave the EU and has spent the past 3 years working on a departure plan, delaying Brexit twice to try to get it through. But she finally acknowledged defeat in a tearful resignation speech last month, the culmination of months of political turmoil that has slowly sapped all her authority. 11 Conservative MPs are currently vying to replace her, including former Foreign Minister Boris Johnson, but some are expected to drop out before Monday's deadline for nominations. The winner will have only a few months to decide whether to try to salvage May's plan, delay Brexit again, or sever ties with Britain's closest trading partner with no agreement at all. The contest should be completed by the week commencing July 22.
And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
Health is our most important.
Delighting the community with what is described as the second-to-none experience, the Church of Christ in Seattle opened its doors to neighbors and public officials with an entire day filled with fun, free services, and friendship. Friend Del Fejeran reports.
In an era where attacks on places of worship have become a statement of hate, the Church of Christ here in Seattle, Washington is here to give a totally different message to the community through an event dubbed as the INC Media Experience, or the INCMX. Families, friends, co-workers, colleagues, neighbors, and even city officials join together to spend part of their Saturday enjoying the experience.
My overall impression is that it's great to see so many folks coming together, and just the welcoming, like someone escorted me and made sure I felt welcomed at entrance. And I'll say, like, the other thing that I loved about this were the chickens and the roosters. I don't know if they're connected to you or not, but they're overparked in this corner, and just felt like, oh, this feels like my community.
Free food like gourmet burgers, gourmet hot dogs, funnel cakes, desserts, family games and prizes and activities, free haircuts, live entertainment, and one-of-a-kind experience to be part of a live studio audience for various popular show tapings like Time to Draw, which is hosted by a YouTube celebrity at the box office artist, also known as James Reyes.
I feel that, like, the community's coming together as one, and we're having fun and just being ourselves, and it's really comfortable. And
it affects a certain group of people because they don't know, if they're safe to go to these public places. We're actually opening up our compound to the whole community to show them that we're here, that we exist. We're the Church of Christ, and we want to make our presence known, and that no matter what happens, we're here for the community.
The cherry on top of it all are the stories being shared, the contagious smiles from face to face, the moments of sincere connection. The positive and genuine energy of all ages are undeniably harmonious, leaving an imprint defining community.
I'm completely disgusted about attacks on churches today, particularly in my community, but I'm concerned about what has been happening all over the country. But what this church, the Church of Christ, has done, in light of somebody trying to burn the whole church down for no reason whatsoever, and then I was amazed to read that the response was, let's continue to reach out to the people and show love. And as a result, folks all over the community paid attention. Some of them came to the church, but even broader than that, when they found out about this event today, and that the church had raised enough resources to make all the booths free of charge for everybody, everywhere I've gone in South Seattle, they said, this idea is second to none. Let's keep it going.
Like what we've heard and seen here today, love is truly in the air. Reporting from the INC Media Experience here in Seattle, Washington, for Eagle News, I am Del Fejeran. I'm 1 with 25.
U.S. President Donald Trump said that he would wait until after a G20 meeting in Japan at the end of the month before deciding whether to impose new tariffs on Chinese goods that could be worth $325 billion.
Additional tariffs on China? Well, you mean when am I going to put the extra $325 billion worth of tariffs? I will make that decision, I would say, over the next 2 weeks. Probably right after the G20. One way or the other, I'll make that decision after the G20. I'll be meeting with President Xi, and we'll see what happens, but probably planning it sometime after G20, okay?
Since Trump fired the first shot, the two countries have implemented tit-for-tat tariffs on two-way trade worth hundreds of billions of dollars. China this month hit $60 billion worth of U.S. goods with new punitive tariffs ranging from 5 to 25% in retaliation for Washington raising duties on $200 billion in Chinese goods to 25%.
Mexico scrambled to slow the flow of Central American migrants to the United States as talks continued in Washington to head off President Donald Trump's threat of potentially catastrophic tariffs on Mexican goods. Mexico City was deploying 6,000 National Guard troops to its southern border with Guatemala, blocked hundreds of migrants in a new caravan, and froze the bank accounts of suspected human traffickers in hopes of appeasing Washington's demands. But in the U.S. Capitol, negotiators holding a second day of talks were still trying to find agreement on issues including asylum application procedures and financial aid to the Central American countries that are the source of most of the migrants.
Entonces, el día de mañana vamos a tener otras reuniones con ese objetivo, con el objetivo de acercar posiciones. Entonces, el punto de partida es que ambas partes reconocemos que la situación actual no se puede mantener como está. ¿Por qué? Porque se dio el reporte ahí de números y efectivamente los flujos están creciendo demasiado.
Many of the migrants say they're fleeing gang violence, oppressive extortion, and corruption in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador.
Vice President Mike Pence says the U.S. is encouraged by Mexico's latest proposals to head off U.S. tariffs by stepping up efforts to halt illegal migration or immigration over the southern border. But Pence says that at this point, tariffs still are set to take effect on Monday.
There's actions they can take. We made recommendations to them. There's been some movement on their part that's been encouraging, but at the end of the day, as those discussions have wrapped up today, we'll evaluate those proposals. We'll present them to the president, but ultimately President Trump will make the decision whether or not the actions that Mexico is prepared to take are sufficient for us to consider changing course. But at this point, the tariffs are going to be imposed on Monday. We've made that very clear to the Mexican delegation.
The Vice President says President Donald Trump is going to stand firm until what he sees as an immigration crisis is resolved.
Our hope is that Mexico will respond. I mean, the President's fully prepared not just to impose the 5% tariffs, but to increase those tariffs in the months ahead. But we hope for better. We hope to see Mexico step up and take such action that's necessary to end this crisis of illegal immigration at our southern border. If they take that action in earnest, we believe that we'll be the best neighbors they ever had.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump in France made his own harsh detour into domestic politics in an interview with Fox News' Laura Ingraham, taped at Normandy American Cemetery just before Thursday's D-Day event. Take a look.
When you were overseas, vicious statement while I'm overseas. Now, if I made any statement about anybody, it would be like a big head. Why would he do that when he's overseas? She didn't want to. She is a terrible person, and I'll tell you, I could have a good relationship with Russia. I think it's hurt by the phony witch hunt. You know, I could have a good relationship with Russia, and she made a statement. It was a horrible, when you were overseas, vicious statement while I'm overseas.
Tax on all Mexican goods. Trump has threatened to impose a 5% tax on all Mexican goods beginning Monday as part of an escalating tariff regime opposed by many in his own Republican Party. The frantic last-minute talks underscore Trump's chaotic approach even when decisions have enormous economic consequences for both the U.S. and its closest allies. Trump has embraced tariffs as a tool he can use as leverage against other countries, dismissing the potential harm to American consumers and manufacturers. Take a look.
When you're the piggy bank that everybody steals and robs from and they deceive you do, and they've been doing for 25 years. Tariffs are a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful word if you know how to use them properly. She made a statement. It was
Lovers and buyers of avocados and tomatoes in the United States, nearly 90% of which come from Mexico, would be hit hard if President Donald Trump puts into action his threat to slap a 25% tariff on all products from Mexico in a bid to pressure the country to do more to stem the flow of migrants across the border.
It's outrageous. I mean, people love avocados. People love healthy food. You know, green food it's a superfood. It just helps your body, helps your skin. I actually use it for my business as well. I have avocado-based lotions and creams for my clients. I'm a sports massage therapist. Probably will, because my lotions will be more expensive, and my clients won't want to buy my lotions anymore, probably because there's avocado prices in them. But you know, I mean, it's all up to Donald Trump. I mean, what is he doing to America?
Everybody loves avocados. Most places eat tomatoes on everything, so you have to have them. It's gonna hurt pockets, but I don't think that it's gonna really affect the revenue. It's actually, they might just make more money off avocados and tomatoes.
Mexico is the world's largest producer of avocados, nearly 2 million tons last year. The United States is meanwhile the world's largest importer of avocados. From avocado toast to Super Bowl guacamole, the green fruit has become not only a dietary but a cultural staple in the U.S. America's avocado craze has been fed by research highlighting the health benefits of the food, plus a massive expansion of supply thanks to the easing of import restrictions in Mexico over the past couple of decades.
Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund hopes that countries can work cooperatively to reduce trade tensions and to reverse a synchronized deceleration of global growth. This is according to Managing Director Christine Lagarde. Take a look. Appearing at the American Enterprise Institute think tank, Lagarde said that while global economic growth is still positive, she maintains that the situation is fragile and precarious, with IMF figures show that the rate of improvement is slowing.
We're now seeing this sort of synchronized deceleration of growth, which is shared by about 70% of total GDP around the world. So that fragility is still the same. It's a little bit differently distributed than what we had assumed. So most recently, the results for the US economy have been slightly better than what we had anticipated. Slightly better also the European Union. But on the other hand, some of the emerging market economies have been lower than we had thought. You know, one of the risks that we had identified is the risks associated with trade tensions. And 2 months ago we said, be very careful what you are doing with this major growth engine that is trade. Because anything that breaks on trade, such as tariffs, such as non-tariff barriers, is going to actually be a brake on growth. And unfortunately, we're seeing some materialization of these risks. If you combine the two and you aggregate what is already in place and what will impact trade, only dealing with China, you know, let alone Mexico, which is a more recent development and which we have not included in that particular surveillance note, that alone would shave off the forecast that we have by 0.5%.
Institutionally, gold and silver coin.
Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting that Facebook won't be allowing Huawei to pre-install its apps on smartphones anymore. Still, that doesn't mean Facebook is banned from Huawei smartphones. Huawei phone owners will still be able to download and use apps like WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook's main app itself. And they'll continue to receive updates through the Play Store. Huawei just won't be able to include them out of the box, which it typically does alongside various other preloaded services like Twitter. It's the latest example of Western tech companies cutting ties with the beleaguered Chinese telecom giant after President Trump issued an effective trade ban against it. Huawei has said it was prepared for the U.S. action and vowed to work around any disruptions.
Meanwhile, a senior executive for Chinese technology giant Huawei said that he hopes the company's animosity with the United States will be resolved and warned that the U.S. will be shooting itself in the foot if it were to shunt Chinese technology. Mika Lode, Huawei's vice president for cybersecurity and privacy, said that he hopes for a positive resolution of the standoff with the U.S. government. Take a look.
I think that there is going to be a positive resolution, so that we are not the nucleus of the issue. There are bigger things which are happening without Huawei, and what I'm thinking is that the common sense will be still, winning in this case as well, because we are still having the same issues: global cybersecurity, the global stability, and.
The U.S. has imposed sanctions against the world's #1 network equipment provider and second largest smartphone maker, arguing that that's legally beholden to the Chinese government, which could use the company's products for cyber espionage. Huawei denies these accusations. Lade also said he doesn't think that the U.S. will be severing all ties with Huawei and other Chinese technology companies, as that would be running themselves into a corner.
I don't believe that they are running themselves in the corner, so that if they are disconnecting themselves from everybody, then it's happening vice versa as well.
Some cybersecurity experts said that Washington, by going as far as warning other countries against working with Huawei actions, will only further encourage China to become more technically self-reliant and will be dividing the world into two tech camps. Lade rejected suggestions of a full split in the tech industry.
We are a global company, similar way as the U.S. companies are. We are making a trade, we are changing the components, software, we are changing our innovations. So I don't believe that we would not be, establishing two different camps. I still believe that we are working together.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset, and it should
hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Heavy rains are flooding streets and prompting high water rescues in Oklahoma City as another round of severe storms passes through. The National Weather Service reports up to 1.5 inches, or that's 3.8 centimeters, of rain fell during a 30-minute period Thursday in the western part of the Oklahoma City area. Flash flood warnings were issued for Watonga, O'Keene, and Canton northwest of the metro. Oklahoma City firefighters reported rescuing stranded motorists in at least a dozen different spots as rain flooded roadways. This latest band of storms follows bouts of severe weather that killed at least 6 people in Oklahoma, including 2 when a tornado ripped through a mobile home park in El Reno. Flooding along the Arkansas River swamped homes and businesses in the Tulsa area and downriver into Arkansas.
All right, here's Ben Bernaldez for the latest in sports. Ben?
In boxing, Philippine legend Manny Pacquiao has vowed to silence Keith Thurman at their World Boxing Association title bout next month, calling him a loudmouth as their war of words escalates. The run-up to the fight has been full of flying insults, with Thurman saying he will beat the 40-year-old Pacquiao into retirement when they clash in Las Vegas on July 20. Thurman, 30, said last month he would crucify the world's only 8-division world champion, who the undefeated American said has never fought anyone this young, strong, and hungry. He's a loudmouth outside the ring. Let's see if he can back it up inside the ring, Pacquiao said on Thursday as he trained in Manila. Some boxers are arrogant while others are humble. Thurman, we know he's arrogant, added by Pacquiao. I'm so motivated for this training camp because of his trash talk like that. I would rather have him my fist do the talking, Pacquiao added. The Philippine legend's career seemed headed for its final moments last year, but he has since knocked out Lucas Matisse and beat Adrian Bronner in bouts. Pacquiao plans to split his training camp between the Philippines and Los Angeles, wrapping up his preparation under the watchful eye of longtime trainer Freddie Roach, who is back in his corner. He told reporters he will fly to Los Angeles on June 15. Thurman, who is 29-0 with 22 knockouts, has promised to be Pacquiao's final opponent in the ring. But Pacquiao pointed out after working the head bag on Thursday that Thurman would not be the first younger challenger he has beaten. In football, Brazil's Neymar went to a Rio de Janeiro police station Thursday to give a statement in a probe into whether he broke the law by posting intimate pictures of a woman who accused him of rape. The football megastar, full name Neymar da Silva Santos Jr., went to the station in an attempt to defend himself, sitting in a wheelchair after spraining his ankle the night before in a pre-Copa America friendly that has ruled him out of the tournament. As he made his way out through the media scrum after giving his statement to the police, the star striker expressed gratitude to his fans for their support. I felt very loved, he said. The injury to the world's most expensive player is a huge blow to host nation's Brazil preparations for the South American Continental Championship, which begins on June 14. Neymar denies the claims in an attempt to defend himself, published an intimate WhatsApp messages and images of his encounter with Trindade on social media, without her consent, possibly breaking Brazilian law. Such an offense carries a maximum 5-year jail term. In the NHL, Ryan O'Reilly scored twice, including the game winner to give the St. Louis Blues a 4-2 victory over the Boston Bruins and level the Stanley Cup Final Series at 2 games each. O'Reilly scored a go-ahead marker off a rebound on Alex Pietrangelo's shot halfway through the third period to break a 2-2 deadlock and snap the Bruins' playoff road winning streak at 5 games. St. Louis came out blazing from the opening puck drop and never trailed, scoring twice in the third period to break open a tie-checking Game 4 at Enterprise Center in the NHL Best-of-7 series. Russian Vladimir Tarasenko and Brayden Schenn also scored, while rookie goaltender Jordan Binnington stopped 21 shots for the Blues, who killed all 3 of their penalties after allowing 4 power play goals in Game 3. The Blues were blown out 7-2 in Game 3, but they are now 7-2 in games after a loss in the playoffs. And those are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I'm 1 with 25.
Eagle News International will be right back.
Health is our most important.
namin, hindi ko na nakikita yung sarili ko eh. Nakikita ko lang si Quezon.
Yes.
At tumahanga ako talaga sa kanya. I've been a vegetarian for about 18 years. Konti lang ako kumain sa daytime.
Pero
and then, nag-workout ho ako ng gutom.
Dami niyang trabaho eh. Tapos naka-diet ka pa. Hindi ba nakakainit ng ulo?
Kaya ako nagkukulong na lang ako.
We'll give you another inspiring, unforgettable, bonding moments.
Abangan ngayong linggo sa Season 3 ng Young Ones Upon a Time.
Ikaw nga ang siyang hanap-hanap kay kaganda ko'y nangarap.
At nagtiwala sa kanyang mga pangako, ngunit nakita kong may iba siyang mahal. Mahiyain, di masabing umiibig sa'yo. Ako'y mahiyain, ano kaya ang gagawin ko?
Abangan sila ngayong linggo sa Season 3 ng Young Ones Upon a Time. Alas 8 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25.
Carnival season is upon the residents of Western Australia with a pack of activities that will surely delight crowds. Here's Reginette Moreno.
As the long weekend for Western Australia Day begins in Perth, Carnival Fever 2019 begins. Carnival Fever 2019 is being held in Cannington Exhibition Centre and Showgrounds and will be open from the 1st to the 3rd of June.
Carnival Fever 2019 is packed with activities for family members, from live entertainment for parents, thrilling rides for the kids, and of course, food trucks for everyone to enjoy. Here are some of the reactions for Carnival Fever 2019.
So yeah, we were brought here today to do shows. We're from X5, we come from Bunbury, and basically we're here to do parkour and free running and showing the community of Cannington what we can do in our talent. This event is about bringing the community of Cannington together, to get all the kids together out on the long weekend and get them all active and outside in the sun and hopefully have a good time.
WA Day is a celebration for recognizing Australia's Aboriginal history, European settlers, and how the many cultures from around the world have continued to make Western Australia their home. WA Day is annually celebrated on the first Monday of June.
WA Day encourages for the state to participate in numerous activities and events for communities to come together. Carnival Fever 2019 is one of the ways WA Day is celebrated as a way to commemorate the Western Australian spirit. Reporting from Perth, Australia, this is Reginette Moreno, and I am one with 25.
Thank you, Reginette. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and
we are one with 25.